Silent Hill. A pillar in the horror community as it spanned through games, movies, and even terrible interactive TV series.
What is that?
It's had a rough history to say the least, from the critically acclaimed to the insanely lame. The highest of highs with the original Silent Hill quadrilogy, and the short-lived but cult-forming PT has had to battle it out with its laughable and embarrassing contemporaries like Silent Hill Pachinko Machines and Silent Hill Ascension. This is why when Silent Hill F was announced, there was both anticipation and tension in the air, as the fans had been fairly burnt out at this point from the late 2000s and early 10s escapades, which were middling at best and atrocities at their worst. Taking the series away from the sleepy mountain of Silent Hill F would take place in 1960s Japan, a stark contrast to its American origins, but as Team Silent and Konami are Japanese natives, this felt like, at least to me, a natural progression for the series, and one that I was looking forward to since the initial trailer launch in October 2022. 3 years later, however, after last year's Silent Hill 2 remake and seeing the story written by Ryuichi07, known for the Higurashi When They Cry series, I knew this one could be different. Even making a short video with my premonition that this could be a whole new golden era for Silent Hill, it is my pleasure and delight to confirm that yes, Silent Hill F is not only well worth your time, it's worth every horror fan's time and is the best horror game of 2025 in my opinion. So get your radio, pick up your trusty seal pipe, and let's see why Silent Hill F is well worth your time. Before I begin, I do want to say there are a lot of depressing, sensitive, and triggering topics that are shown in the game and will be discussed in this review. There is a warning before the game for this, so if that is not your thing, don't play this game and don't watch this review. Additionally, there will be minor spoilers, and if you're already sold on this game, please go in as blind as possible, as it's the best way to enjoy it. For everyone else, let's get into the review. First off, let's cover the reason that people love this game so much: the story, setting, and characters. You play as Hinako Shimizu, a young Japanese high school girl who hasn't exactly got the best life right now. Her once shining beacon of hope and happiness, her sister Junko, has left home to marry her husband, leaving her in the incapable hands of her abusive father and timid mother, who allows his violent behaviour to flourish as he rules over the household with an iron fist. You start the game with how most unhappy households start their mornings, with an argument in the living room. As Hinako's father snaps at her for not being more like her older sister Junko, her mother meekly and ineffectively tries to calm the situation down, with Hinako taking matters into her own hands, leaving the house and travelling down into town to meet her friend group and get away from the madness that's inside her house. As Hinako enters the town, it seemingly has been abandoned as house doors are firmly shut, vehicles have been left by the wayside, and only the whisperings of disembodied voices can be heard as you squeeze through tight alleyways. Making your way to your group's rendezvous point, the local sweet shop, catch up with your friends, and teenage antics ensue. As this is happening though, an ominous fog rips through the town and gives chase to our young protagonist as her and her friends run for their lives in this new waking nightmare. From there, you'll fight your way through the fog-infested town of Ebisuga-Oka, finding all manner of grotesque, deformed creatures, notes detailing horrific and interpersonal backstories of its residents, and of course, in Silent Hill fashion, there is a cult scheming and quietly watching ominously in the background. You will also occasionally visit the Silent Hill iconic Other World in this game, which this time around is a lot prettier than previous Silent Hills. Gone now are the twisted, rusty metal railings that look like you need a tetanus shot with even looking at them, with its pulsating flesh walls. It has now been replaced with traditional Shinto aesthetic that you'll travel down serene walkways and discover ominous temples as you follow the mysterious Fox Mask as he guides you through this other world. As the story unfolds, both worlds will start to bleed into each other over its 10+ hour runtime, as it juggles the dark, depressing, and very personal story of Hinako, who faces her own demons, whether it be her abusive father, her toxic friendships, or a crisis of identity. Hinako Shimizu will face these problems head on as she tries to find a way out of this nightmare and find a way to be happy in this new world. This all while masterfully incorporating a bigger Silent Hill story of the small town, its people, and the troubles that have befallen them, made me truly fall in love for the setting of Ebisuga-Oka and main character of Hinako. And by the time credits rolled on my first playthrough, there were still quite a few story threads to chase in New Game Plus, but the story it weaved in those initial 10+ hours was one of the best horror stories I had ever witnessed, and I was craving to jump back into, with new eyes and new expectations as I delve more and more into this fascinating world. All of this is, by the way, up for interpretation, and while I want to do a full deep dive into what I feel the game was about and what it meant, I've seen some people already have takes of, was that it, in terms of the story. But as Skill said in his review, Silent Hill F has the potential to be analysed and interpreted a million different ways in the future, and I think that's the sign of not just a good story, but a great one. Of course, a story this strong needs a backdrop that can carry its weight, and Silent Hill F delivers one of the most hauntingly beautiful settings the series has ever seen. So let's look at it. The game takes place in the secluded town of Ebisuga-oka, which is based on the real-life Kaneyama-Gero Gifu Prefecture, and it's a perfect fit for the Silent Hill franchise, as this once bustling spot has been on the slow decline, with most of its citizens moving away and looking for greener pastures in bigger cities. Due to the local mining operation ceasing, this means the mountain town has lost its purpose and its people. The town is dense though, as its labyrinthian alleyways weave and whip back into one another, leaving you as the player disorientated and vulnerable, as although these Japanese houses are smaller than those found in Silent Hill 2, they still feel more oppressive than the large and towering buildings that dwarf James Sunderland in Silent Hill. And with the new settings means not as much grunge and metal, which has led the orange rust of the previous Otherworld to have a glow up, and now has taken the form as a sea of red flowers, consisting of red chrysanthemums and red spider lilies that spread like a parasite through the town streets, blooming through the dark and dreary buildings as though it's trying to bring life and colour into this dead town. Speaking of the Otherworld, it has a beautiful dreamlike aura to it. As you step into the fog-drenched vast of nothingness, I do feel it loses a bit of its horror feel compared to the Otherworld, as it no longer has the flesh-coloured walls that made you feel like you were travelling down someone's botched open heart surgery, and instead it's been replaced with a clean, almost ethereal feel that definitely feels more dreamlike. But what I really want from a Silent Hill game is to feel like I'm in a nightmare. So although I loved the new world, I wish there was a bit more done for it, as it felt too clean, and at points more akin to games like Ninja Gaiden or Ghost of Tsushima. As you travel around both locations, you will find remnants of the people and places that once existed there. Now, with only notes left behind, they detailed their own experiences, giving me more flavour text and lore to the town and other world. Whether it be a nurse's notes detailing the strange disease taking over a family, or details about the man who helped set up this town and how he made his riches, the additions of these stories and the beautiful way they are illustrated in Hineko's notebook made searching for these tidbits of lore my priority throughout the game. Like a detective sleuth, I needed to know more about why this town went to hell, and if they were in fact the reason the deadly fog came to their door. Also, I can't not mention one of the key scene setters in this game, the music, which once again, series legend Akira Yamaoka returns to give us his Japanese take on a Silent Hill soundtrack. And my god does he knock it out the park again, with the iconic theme of this game being the one used in the original trailer that combines the game's original soundtrack with the use of gagaku instruments and a sho, which is a Japanese mouth organ, as well as the series' iconic piano. That gives you the eeriness of its high notes piercing your eardrums, but calms and unnerves you all at the same time. I don't know how he does it, but once again, this game's soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks in gaming, and I hope Mr. Akira Yamaoka continues to work on the series for years to come, blessing my ears with his unmistakable sound and style. But as this game has proven, a Silent Hill location, no matter how eerie or detailed, is only as good as the people who inhabit it, and Hineko, along with her friends, are what truly breathe life into this nightmare. So let's talk about them.
私やっぱり咲くことの約束守りたいよ。
So who is Hineko Shimazu? Well, that's the question she's asking herself. As we step into Hineko's shoes, we see that she does not fit the 1960s stereotype of Japanese schoolgirl. She's the kind of girl that likes shooting make-believe aliens with the boys, but also talks to her dolly and wants to play house with the other girls, who have rejected her because of her affiliation with the boys in town. This, as for many people growing up, can be confusing, as she likes doing both and doesn't neatly fit into one group or another. But society has told her it's either A or B, and she's grown up with this confliction, and what she's feeling now is what many other teenagers feel at that stage in their life: uncertainty and insecurity about their place in the world, exacerbated by now losing her voice of reason and reassurance that is her older sister Junko. She hasn't yet decided who she is as a person and who she wants to be, but there are people and situations that are surrounding her that are forcing this decision on her now, and Hineko, like the fog surrounding her, feels trapped, pressured, and unsure of where to go at this important stage in her life. This has resulted in certain actions and interactions that once felt normal and safe becoming uncomfortable and confusing, especially with her friendship group, where although it feels like she's on her own, Hinako is joined by her group of friends consisting of Sakako, a girl as described as a little weird who has her head in the clouds but is friendly and talkative, her other friend Rinko, who has become boy crazy, fashion focused, girly stereotype, desperately wanting the attention of their fourth member of the group, Hinako's guy friend Shu, a dependable friend who seems like she's the most comfortable with, or at least used to be, as they've given each other the nickname partner as they spent days playing make-believe with their game Space Wars, which has now drawn the ire of different folks in their town. And now, something that was once innocent fun has become sullied, and they're both confused on what this friendship is and what it means to both of them. Each of these characters have their own needs, wants, flaws, and desires, and you feel them throughout your playthrough. None of them felt disposable, and each of them had a part to play in the story, making you love, hate, and sympathize with everyone by the end of the game. This is helped by the fact that the Japanese performances was spectacular, and as a sub purist, I think you should play the game with the Japanese dub as well, as it is a Japanese focused game and it deserves to be heard in its native tongue. But I plan on listening to the English dub in subsequent playthroughs to see the tonal differences and performances. It is a treat to be able to spend time in this world with these characters, and Hinako can join the very long line of iconic horror protagonists comfortably, steel pipe and all. And speaking of steel pipes, let's get into the gameplay. Before that though, I do want to quickly cover the performance and bugs, and on a base PS5, it ran amazingly well, with only a few lightning stutters and visual bugs throughout my playthrough, and one time I got stuck in an enemy, but apart from that, the whole experience was smooth and pleasant. I don't have much to add, as it never slowed down with multiple enemies on screen, and I played it consistently for 6+ hours with no issues of overheating and degrading performance, unlike some other games recently, Mr. Pitchford.
It smells funny in there.
No, it doesn't.
With this smooth performance came even smoother character and enemy designs, with each character looking and feeling authentic to this era, with traditional Japanese outfits, school uniforms, and hairdos. They have captured their facial animations perfectly, with Hinako especially being able to convey so many different emotions from just subtle eye glances and face movements alone. With only a small cast of characters, each stood out as a unique person. Even though 3 of the characters were the same outfit, it shows how much time and attention went into establishing them. The monsters, in stark contrast though, were beautifully disgusting. There weren't that many, as I think in total there were 4 or 5 unique enemy models in my first playthrough that had different variants throughout the game, which I was gutted about because I just wanted more creepy monster designs. But the ones we did get were all peak. From the initial mannequin woman, whose movements were both intimidating and elegant, to the bulbous flesh sack abominations that would swing their heavy weights with reckless abandon, and each boss that had an eerily ethereal grace and wonder to them. Every enemy had a place and a purpose within this game, even though they do get repetitious by the end, so let's mention the combat. So I decided to play my first playthrough on hard difficulty and hard puzzle solving, and although hard is the middle option, it definitely felt hard as the game implied, and this is where we discuss the main contention point of the game, and the series as a whole, to be honest with you, the combat. With any Silent Hill game means Silent Hill monsters, and when you need to take down a monster, you'll need a weapon, and your weapons will consist of all manner of melee weapons found throughout the town. This includes metal pipes, kitchen knives, sledgehammers, and various other ones. With it being in 1960s Japan, gone are the firearms of their Western brothers and sisters, and instead you're going to be thrown into a dance of pipes and fists as you swing, stab, and swipe your way through the new occupants of Ebisogoka. The combat feels fine. You have a dodge, heavy attack, light attack, and focus attack, with you having to maintain your weapon and choose your fights carefully, as when you fight these monsters, there's no real incentive to do so. They are roadblocks in quite the literal sense, as they don't drop resources, currency, or upgrades, and instead will hamper your progression and slowly degrade your weapons, which you will need for future specific sections that you need to defeat a set amount of monsters, resulting in late game Dark Souls-like gameplay where you run past as many enemies as possible to get to the mandatory combat part. Like the combat, the feedback from hitting enemies feels fine, with heavy attacks feeling heavy and light attacks feeling, well, like nothing. The only sense of real feedback I ever got was when you have to hit this certain timing when the enemies will flutter and spark like an old TV set, and when you hit them then, it felt incredibly gratifying. But apart from that, the hits felt lackluster to say the least. Dodging as well could be finicky, with you dodging leaps and bounds away from enemies, but often felt so unruly that you'd end up dodging from one attack straight headfirst into another, which became frustrating after a while. Some people said that this combat is Souls-like, and for those people who said that, you are 1000% wrong. Yes, you need to dodge attacks, and you need to strike when you get a certain opening, but that's it. This is nothing like Souls-like combat, and it isn't meant to be. There is a late game upgrade, which does make the combat a bit more enjoyable, but makes the enemies even more insignificant roadblocks than before. This combat can be made easier though, through the game's upgrades, which are basic in nature, but effective, as you upgrade health, stamina, and sanity using faith, which you can attain by selling resources that you find throughout the game. And you can take this with you into New Game Plus to keep building on in subsequent playthroughs. Additionally, you'll find Omamori, which are charms that will give you different status effects like easier perfect dodging, getting health back when defeating enemies, and swinging faster with heavy weapons. And these can be equipped at any time and earned at shrines if you have spare faith to spend on them. This is all to say the combat and mechanics was serviceable, but by the end, like many other reviewers, I was dreading combat encounters, not because of being scared, but out of frustration and annoyance. As the later half of the game really does shift into high gear, with multiple enemies attacking you at once, tanky enemies that can interrupt and spawn more and more enemies, and one infuriating section at the end of the game that had an enemy gauntlet after enemy gauntlet, each with tanky enemies that would just not die, resulting in a slow slog before its beautiful crescendo. I want to preface this, as it could very much be a skill issue, as there was certain enemy in this game that would infuriate me to no end, and it was fast and I could just never get the timing down correctly. But yet, the combat wasn't perfect and might be the most frustrating part of the game, but it definitely doesn't detract enough from the experience to otherwise dampen this somber tale. And finally, the puzzles. The puzzles in this game will require you to pay attention, and although it took me some time to decipher them, they all felt fair and achievable, with only one requiring me to do a Google search. And when I did get the answer, I thought, I'm just being dumb, and I was overthinking it too much instead of it being the game's fault. They are nicely paced throughout the game, and if anything, I would have preferred having a few more puzzles and less combat encounters, with one of my favourite puzzles involving monitoring and inspecting scarecrows in a foggy field, deciphering which one of them was going to help me and which one was going to cut me up and add me to the scarecrow brethren. It was horrifying, it engaged my brain, and when I fucked up, it felt like my fuck up, which are all the signs of a great puzzle in my eyes. So for future games, more puzzles like this and less combat encounters, and it'll be perfect. So I'm pretty sure I titled this video, Silent Hill F is the horror game of this year. And I hope that throughout this review you can see why. It moved me, scared me, and stuck with me in a way that only Silent Hill game could. So with the recent discourse online this weekend, questioning the validity of this game as Silent Hill, I want to throw my hat into the ring and say, this is the epitome of what a Silent Hill game is. Giving me the same feeling I did back in 2010 when I played the original Silent Hill 2 in my friend's basement, and especially after playing last year's remake, I feel is a disservice and an insult to disregard this as a bold but fitting step for the franchise, and did the impossible by proving that a Silent Hill game didn't need to take place in those foggy mountains, and instead opens up the endless possibilities the series can now take. Whether you're a Silent Hill fan or a horror fan in general, Silent Hill F is absolutely 100% worth your time. This game encapsulated and grabbed me and wouldn't let go until the credits rolled. Hinako's story is one of the best in Silent Hill's history, and although I think James Sunderland and his trip to Silent Hill retains as one of the best horror stories of all time, Hinako will gladly be entered into the annals of horror history as a truly iconic and lasting tale of identity, tradition, relationships, and purpose, which is distinctly different from its American cousins, but just as resonant and impactful. I hope all the people who worked on this project are proud of what they've produced and have been sufficiently paid and praised for what they have created, and hopefully they will be able to work on a sequel or other projects in the future. I never thought I would be able to say this, but yes, in 2025, we have a new Silent Hill game, and my god, is it great. So please, pick this game up today and play the masterpiece that is Silent Hill F. Side note for everyone who made it to the end of the video, thank you very much for watching. I always appreciate when people check in, and it's a longer review, which I would like to do more of in the future. This game was so good that this video won't be the last I talk about it, as I want to do a full deep dive into the story and themes throughout the game. So I'm currently battling my way through New Game Plus, writing up the new scripts as we speak, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that video coming out soon. If you're excited about that video as well, please make sure to like and subscribe, and check up on my other videos as well. There's plenty of them on the channel. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.